Hi guys, this is Caroline with Fiveable, and thank you for joining me this afternoon from wherever you are. I hope that you are safe and with your family and taking care of yourself, and that means not just physically staying safe and washing your hands and doing all of those things that we know, but also mentally. I think that's probably the biggest struggle right now is just making sure that you're taking care of your mental health and finding ways to come up with routines and things that make you still have kind of the ability to move forward, because that's unfortunately kind of the only option right now. So I'm assuming if you're tuning in, it's because you're not in school, or maybe school has let out. But it seems like most people are not in school. I know that my kiddos aren't in Chicago. But the goal of this session, I mean, it's pretty open-ended. I don't have very many slides, but I just kind of want to give you guys an update on the virus, because this is AP Bio. You guys should definitely be able to understand and maybe even apply some of that knowledge. I can tell you the latest that we know from College Board, and then most importantly, I can show you your resources and you can ask some questions. So we'll go through that. Not necessarily going to be a super content heavy, but if you needed there to be content in the coming weeks, we can certainly do that. And I'll also show you the resources of content that already exists at Fiveable that you guys have access to that might be helpful. Okay, so, oops. All right. Just as a reminder, this is our regular streaming schedule, and we are still going ahead with all of our streams because as we know, it seems as though College Board is going through with AP exams, which is a good thing, right? It means you guys can still get credit for everything that you've been working on, but it does mean that the rest of the information that you gain for that AP exam may be virtual. Stay tuned. We don't know. So here are our streams for sure. Bio is going to be Wednesdays at 8 p.m. All these are Eastern time. So tonight we have a stream going on, and then going forth we'll have streams. So definitely, tune into those, because that's a really good way, obviously, to get information when you're maybe not in the classroom every day. Okay, so as I said, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have Jessica going over extinction, variation, and populations and origins of life. Next Wednesday at this time, I'll be doing another Q&A, and we can potentially do some more content then if you guys want, since I will have gone through like a basic overview of resources and what we know right now. And then that night at 8 Eastern, we'll do population ecology. So we're moving into ecology, which is the last unit of AP Bio that we will cover, which is awesome. So we're moving through our content, and then we'll have a lot of cram sessions leading up closer to the exam that I'll be leading to go through all of the units as a whole. Okay, and as always, follow us. Ooh, why is this so big? On all of our platforms, we're posting a lot of new things every single day, with the change in circumstances that we're seeing. Okay, so today, as I said, I want to go through a little bit about what we know about COVID-19, the latest we have from College Board, resources for you, and then Q&A. Okay, I guess I should have introduced myself in case you guys haven't experienced Fiveable before. As I said, my name is Caroline. I'm actually a former AP Biology teacher, but I taught AP Bio for a while in the city of Chicago. And now I am a nursing student, nursing student, almost graduated. So I kind of have a different take on this, because I have certainly taught AP for a number of years and feel very much an expert on all content and things College Board, but I also have the real life experience of kind of being in the field right now. So I can provide that insight to you as well. Okay, so COVID-19, what do we know? We know more every single day. So these were some slides that I made for a presentation that we did last week, and so much has changed since then. I'm sure you guys are feeling that as well. We do know that it's a virus. We do know that it is part of a family of viruses called coronavirus that has been around forever, for as long as we know, which includes the common cold. So I know a lot of people were saying that Lysol was rebranding their products to say that they would kill coronavirus, and they've always said that they would kill coronavirus because, again, this is a larger family of viruses. And when we see viral infection, obviously your immediate thought should be that the care for that patient is then just supportive, because we don't have an antibiotic to cure this. It's not a bacterial infection. Hopefully we will have a vaccine. Vaccines, they're anticipating may take upwards of 18 months. So it's going to be a long time before we have a vaccine for this. And so supportive treatment is what the plan is for now. What this virus does is it binds to the cells inside of your lungs, and the ciliated cells in there then start to swell. And Dakota, I can definitely answer your question in a second. Thanks for asking it. And when those things start to swell, they actually start to release some fluids. And so the fluids can start to fill up the lungs, which can lead to shortness of breath, obviously, because your lung space is decreasing. And then that reaction in and of itself stimulates our immune system to come and attack, which actually makes that swelling, inflammation, and fluid more prevalent. So it's actually almost making it worse. But that's what leads to the dry cough. We're not coughing up mucus, but you have that cough from that irritation and the shortness of breath due to the decreased lung capacity, and then a fever anytime we have infection. This is, and again, this is kind of evolving too. We believe it is spread via droplets. Okay, so we call that droplet transmission. What that means is you would actually have to have contact with like coughing, some sort of droplet from an infected patient, usually coughing, sneezing, something like that. In this case, it's mainly coughing because that's the main symptom presenting. And that droplet would have to enter your own respiratory tract. There are very few things that are actually airborne, like can just travel through the air without the actual droplet. Although there is maybe some evidence that this could be partially airborne. But again, we just don't know a whole lot because there hasn't been enough time for scientists to really make these conclusions. What we do know, and I'm sure you've heard this by now, is that masks are relatively ineffective because the droplets can enter them. The only thing it might help you with is to not touch your face. And then people who are sick should be wearing them just to kind of keep those droplets in and not spread them. But with this social distancing, and I don't know what the rules and regulations are near you, but Chicago's pretty much shut down. So inside of your own home, you're hopefully, relatively safe. Incubation period. So the incubation period is the time that it takes once you've been infected to actually start showing symptoms. And that's somewhere between 1 and 15 days, which is really not specific, but that's why they're quarantining people for 14 days, because even if it does take that long for them to show symptoms, they'll still be in quarantine during that time and won't have exposed others to the disease during that time frame. What we know is it seems children are less susceptible. It doesn't mean that they can't get it, but it does mean that they don't seem to be showing symptoms or showing severe symptoms. It may be possible that they're showing mild symptoms. And so a child with a cough, we're like, yeah, most kids right now have a cough. So it's possible that they actually do have the virus and we just don't know, which makes them potential carriers, meaning that they can transmit it to others. So that's a concern as well. Testing is relatively limited. There were more tests put out. We really created a new test. Merck, which is a farm company, did that, and they were supposed to send out 1 million tests on Sunday. So testing should increase a little bit. There is the potential for drive-through testing coming, especially to areas of high need. And then the most important thing is that information is constantly changing. So I'm not sure if these slides were linked. They will be linked in the resources, but I'm going to link them right here because there are two websites in there that I really like. National Geographic has an article that I think is very helpful, but also Johns Hopkins has a map as well as detailed information about the virus. And I trust them more because they have no government affiliation. So they're a private institution, which is helpful, and a big research institution. So that's the overview. As you guys know by now, the people who are at most risks are people who are immunocompromised, have pre-existing conditions, are over the ages of 65. Basically, if you have a pre-existing condition over the age of 65, those are going to be the highest risk patients. And a pre-existing condition could be something like diabetes or heart disease. And those are two very, very common chronic illnesses in the United States. So there are definitely more people than you might initially think of who might be at a slightly increased risk. And then also geographic, right? If you're in an area that's hit really hard, like New York or Washington, that's going to be different than if you live somewhere where there's not very many cases. Prevention, we know this. You're washing your hands, you're doing the in-between, you're doing the under the nails, you're doing it for 20 seconds with warm water. Hand sanitizer, if you can get your hands on it. Otherwise, you can make it yourself. You can do like 2 parts, like 2/3 cup of isopropyl alcohol, but it has to be greater than 90% concentration with 1 part aloe gel, and mix that all together. The reason it has to be greater than 90% is because you're cutting it, you're diluting it with some of that aloe, and we need the overall percentage to be above 60% in order to be effective. Avoid touching public surfaces. Hopefully most of you are just at home now and not accessing public surfaces. Stay home if you're sick. Most of you, I'm sure, are home anyway. Hydrate as always, and make sure you're getting your vaccinations. It's never too late. Like, you can still get the flu vaccine because you don't want to get double hit if you were to get hit with something. So the outlook, we really just don't know. Trump has said in some parts that, we might not be back and up and running until July. It could be longer. It could be not that long. We really don't know. There's evidence that this virus doesn't like heat. I'm sorry, for whatever reason right now when I'm talking out loud, it's making me yawn. Doesn't like heat, but on the same vein, Australia, which is in the middle of their summer right now, is still getting hit. So we just really don't know. And if it does go away, it could always have a resurgence. There is a vaccine in development, but that could take upwards of 18 months. Stay tuned. And the good thing to know is that we do have infrastructure for outbreaks. So a couple things that I'll say here, because I need to tell myself this too, and being in the medical field as well. Information is definitely important, right? It's important to know things that are going to greatly affect you, but it's also important to disconnect. If you're sitting on CNN or Johns Hopkins or whatever website all day looking at updates, your mental health is going to be greatly inhibited, right? This is some scary stuff. And so it's important for you to take some time away from it and not be all consumed by it, because it's so very easy to be all consumed. Take a step away from your social media, read a book, play with your siblings. If you can, go outside and go for a walk, as long as you're staying 6 feet away from one another and practicing your social distancing. I know that's helped me a lot, but just take some time for yourself, because, at this point, nothing, at least for me in Chicago, nothing earth-shattering is changing. I know that I'm going to be stuck in my apartment for a long while. And I, kind of just have to take a step away and come up with a routine. So that's another thing that I want to talk to you guys about. As you're preparing for AP exams, it's really important that you establish some sort of routine for yourself. And that might be like an hour a day or an hour every other day that you're going to devote for AP Bio. And I don't know how it's working at your schools, and that's something that we can certainly talk about and start to troubleshoot once we kind of get into that section of today, with questions and answers and things like that. But it's important to keep yourself regulated to some capacity. Otherwise, our brain doesn't function. Our minds crave routine, especially young minds crave routine. And you're so used to being in that routine. Think about how hard it is to get back into school at the end of summer. And so it's important that you still give yourself that, so that you can have still some productivity. And when you're productive, you feel happier, right? So even if you're like, I don't really want to spend time on bio, when you're done, you'll feel better and you'll feel like you accomplished something, which is something to say when you're kind of stuck inside and feeling like you're not able to accomplish too much. So Dakota, what does it mean when we see presumptive positive cases in the news? So presumptive positive probably means that all of their symptoms are aligning, but they may not have gotten the official test result back yet, or they may have gotten just a preliminary result and they're waiting for further testing. What that would mean is someone probably came in with a very high fever and with cough and shortness of breath and some difficulty breathing. And they're like, yes, we are presuming this person has this. Maybe they did a preliminary test, but they just don't have the official word yet. And part of that is with access to testing and with how long it's been taking to get test results back, there can be that lag time, which is what they would be referring to. Although they're working on that and they're working to get results back within 24 hours, which would be phenomenal. So hopefully that answers your question. So I definitely don't want this entire thing to be just about the outbreak and that kind of stuff. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? And I can kind of orient back more towards AP and College Board. Any other questions? So Dakota, asthma actually would be considered a chronic respiratory disease. So individuals with asthma may have, depending on the severity of the asthma, may have slightly higher susceptibility. We oftentimes see asthma in pediatric populations, and since the pediatric populations are less affected by this, the risk would still be relatively low. But if someone was asthmatic or had asthma and was above the age of 65, then they could be at an increased risk. Yeah, and that's just the increased risk not to acquire the disease. We all, I mean, geographically we can't all, but like everyone can equally, inhale this virus, but it's just how that presents afterwards. I think it's also really important to remember that a lot of cases are not severe and most people are recovering. That's not to say that you don't have to be worried about the people that are not by any means, because we do need to be empathetic towards everyone right now. This is a time when we're all depending on one another in order to stay safe. But it is important to remember that most people are recovering just fine. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? I know it can be information overload. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. It's just important to still remain hopeful and know that while this may be a little longer than maybe we anticipated, there will be an end. Life will be normal at some point again. Maybe you can get some good book reading in. Okay, well, if you guys think of questions as I'm talking, feel free to ask, because kind of having both sides of the teaching and nursing experience, I can certainly hopefully answer those. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen with your AP exam. Well, Tristan, I totally understand. I would also love to go over multiplication and addition rules, Derek, although I'm not sure I'm exactly sure what you're talking about, so I'll have to ask maybe a clarifying question. And Tristan, I totally don't blame you, so I'm hopefully going to give you lots of resources today that can help. Oh, for genetics probability, yeah, for sure. We can definitely talk about that, Derek. Give me a second to get through this and show you all your resources, and then I can answer some of your more specific questions. Thank you for asking. Okay, so what do we know from College Board? Well, that also changes every day, and it's looking like they may be setting up things to allow students to test at home, depending on the situation. What does that mean? We don't know. I'm assuming if school is back in session in May, then you will be able to test in school. And I know that they've already put out things that say that you could maybe do late testing in June. So your school could register for late testing, so you don't have to take it in May, but you'd have more time once you get back to school. With how things are looking, we might not go back to school this semester. I don't know. And so with that, there may be an online test. But as far as I know, the test is happening. Will they make it easier? I don't know, Olivia. I wish that I knew the answer to that, and I wish the answer was yes. I truly don't know. What I will say is how AP exams are graded is based on a bell curve, with the majority getting the 3 in the middle. So I would have to say that since almost every student in the United States is out of school right now, you're all facing the same, what's the word that I'm looking for? I can't think today. You're all facing the same problem, right? No one really is getting a good AP bioeducation right now. And so hopefully that evens the playing field. And so the average might be skewed to make it a little bit easier to get a 3, 4, or 5. But I do not know for sure. With testing at home, there are a lot of resources that exist. I've tested at home before, and you have to have a webcam, and you show your entire environment, and you keep your volume on so that they know that no one's talking to you, and they watch your eye movement and things like that. So I'm assuming that's what they're going to do, but we just don't know. So stay tuned. I'm going to do Q&As for sure, and I'll let you know anything. They said they were going to provide more information on the 20th, which is Friday. So you can also check College Board's website. It's like one of the banners at the top. Tristan, we could certainly also talk about DNA and RNA. Okay, so first of all, let me just talk to you about your resources, because a lot of the things you're asking about already exist, which is great. So Fiveable is obviously what I'm streaming for right now, but I've also been streaming for Fiveable for almost 2 years now. So there is a huge library. You will be so sick of me because there is a huge library of me talking through basically every topic under the sun. And they're all broken down into the new AP Bio units, even though some of them were made during the old AP Bio like last year. And now you can download them. So if you're having like unreliable internet, you can go download the videos and then watch them. They're each somewhere between like 40 minutes and 60 minutes, and they're on basically every topic. So like I'm already seeing people asking about genetics probability, DNA and RNA. So Tristan, there's great videos that already exist that are like an hour long that will talk you through DNA and RNA and transcription and translation, both from a stream this year and last year. So there's double resources that you can use. And there's also study guides that have been posted that a lot of great creators have made, including myself, that walk you through each unit and the big ideas. So you can use those as a scaffolding and then build on those. So sometimes it's helpful. So I'm just talking to you, like, just study, what can you do? Maybe on, you make a schedule for yourself and you're going to do bio on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So next week, Monday, you look at unit 1 and you look at the study guide that's on Fiveable and you look and see if you have any questions. And if you have questions, you try to see if there's any videos posted on Fiveable that you could watch. If you can't find them there, then you can start Googling other resources. There's Khan Academy. There's all these things that you guys know about, and you can watch videos there, but it at least gives you a guide, because I think that that's sometimes the hardest place to start, is just knowing what you need to know or what you don't know, right? So you can use those study guides that have been created for all 8 units just to go through and be like, okay, I feel really, really confident with transcription, or, oh, I don't feel confident with translation. Let me go find more resources on that. So hopefully that's a bit helpful. And I think those guides are a good place to start as you guys are working through this. Because again, I don't know what your schools are doing, if you're required to do work, if you're not required to do work. But any of those things should be able to work. Okay, so Albert, if you haven't heard of it, Albert, we're actually going to be pairing with them as well and sending out some review materials to you guys. So I'll be doing that. So I'll be sending you guys emails with review materials that include practice questions from Albert. They have a massive test bank of practice questions for AP Bio that are related to these units. So practice questions are sometimes the best way, with full explanations, sometimes the best way to kind of understand what you do and don't know. And we know that AP questions are really hard, right? They're all application based. So definitely check them out as well. And hopefully I'll be sending you guys emails soon with resources that you can use. College Board. So a couple of things with College Board that I wanted to post for you guys. So the first one, and I've posted this before, but if this is your first time joining, this is the course and exam description, and it exists for every AP. Did that just go through? There we go. And it's a massive PDF. It's like 224 pages, but it goes through, so this can also help. So this is, another resource besides just the Fiveable study guides, but you can take a scroll through here and it goes through all the units and the different subtopics within. So it shows you like course content. So you can go to unit 1 and it tells you that unit 1 is, if I can get to it, chemistry of life. It's 8 to 11% of the AP exam. And then it tells you the unit at a glance. So here are the 6 main ideas that you need to get from unit 1. So you need to know about the structure of water and hydrogen bonding, the elements of life, intro to biological macromolecules, properties of biological macromolecules, etc. And then it'll give you a little bit more details on those, right, as far as all the different standards that you should be aware of. And that's, again, just a jumping off point. So it's a good way to organize your thoughts when you're wondering how the heck you should be reviewing this material on your own, because it's not specifically detailed. If it was, it would be like 800 pages, but it'll at least tell you what you know and what you don't know. So that's the course and exam description. I would definitely hold on to that. Keep it near and dear and use that as a resource. If you have the capacity to print, if one of your parents is still working and has, working at an office and can print it for you and print those sections, that would be awesome. So you could highlight what you know and don't know. AP Classroom, and I saw Sierra asked about homeschool students, and I'm not positive, so I'm going to write myself a note to get you an answer, Sierra. If not, I'm sure I can just add you to my AP Classroom. Actually, it should work. You should be able to just log into AP Central So you should just need an AP Central login, and you should be able to get to that. And there's questions in there as well. But let me know if that doesn't work for you, Sierra, and I can try to find an answer for you. But they have practice questions as well. It's not amazing, but it works. And then the most important thing, which is something that I wanted to look out today, and which you guys probably know, I'm assuming you know, is that the last so many years, I don't even know how many, 30 years of AP free response questions are posted on College Board with their answer keys. So just to show you an example, let's do AP Biology FRQ from 2018, sure. So I just Googled AP Biology FRQ 2018, and there's two things that are gonna pop up. There's the actual questions, and then there's the scoring guideline. So the scoring guideline is the rubric. So I wanna start just by looking at the questions, right? If this is me and I'm trying to study. So maybe you look at all of 2018. The only stipulation is it needs to be after 2013, because 2013 is when they redesigned the exam, and the questions before are just not similar. Anything from 2013 through 2019 will work. You guys actually have less questions on your AP exam, so that's a good thing. So it'll be less than what you're seeing here with the same amount of time, which is really nice. So if you take a look at this PDF, you'll see the 8 questions that were on the 2018 AP exam. So the first 2 questions are the long questions, and you guys will have 2 long questions as well. They're worth 10 points. So what I want you guys to take a look at, let me actually share my screen. Okay. Well, I don't want my face that big. All right, there we go. So what you guys can take a look at is, so this is question 1. Obviously, there's a couple different parts to it. So we have this phylogenetic tree, we have our question, and then we have a table, and then we have our 5 parts, okay? So as I said, this guy is worth 10 points, and each bolded word is going to be a point. So let's find all those points. So this is just one way that always work when I'm looking to answer a free response question, and I think you guys, as you're practicing, should do the same. So use the phylogenetic tree in figure 1 to estimate the age. Okay, so estimating the age is going to give us 1 point if we get it right. Next, we need to identify a population, so that'll get us another point. And then we need to identify 2 populations that we could switch, and that will get us another point. So part A is worth 3 points, and they're all really easy because they're all identifying and estimating questions. So that really means that we can write like a 1-word answer. You should write incomplete sentences or type incomplete sentences if this is going to be virtual, but those 3 points are really, really easy to get. So next, part B is worth 2 points because we're constructing a cladogram and then circling a specific position. So again, each one of those bolds is worth a point. So now we're up to 5 points total. C is going to be worth 1 point because we're providing 1 piece of reasoning. So that'll just be 1 point. So now we're up to 6, 4 more points, and we have 4 more bolded words. So we're predicting, we're justifying our prediction. So the prediction is just like, what do you expect to happen? And the justify is why. And then we're describing and predicting, which is, again, describing, you actually have to go into detail, versus predicting, you're just making an educated guess. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what this looks like in case your teachers haven't spent time going over what a free response looks like and how many points they're worth, just because I know some teachers wait until like closer to the end of the year to do that. So it's good to see that and be able to identify where you're getting your points, because, and we'll get into this closer to the AP exam, but you're going to be skipping around probably, and you may not answer the long questions first. So it's important to know where you can get points. Wanted to show you this because it's a really strong resource and something that I would advise that you get started practicing with. Obviously, you can print out one of these packets. You can work through these questions, and then you can grade yourself using the scoring guidelines. The scoring guidelines are very specific, and they do usually require specific words to be used in order for students to get credit. There are so many times when I'm grading student career responses and I'm like, oh, I know what you meant, right? And so if I'm grading their unit test, I might give them a point. But if they're getting graded by College Board, then they're not getting that point, okay? So again, all you have to do is Google, I'll write this in here, Google AP Bio free response, and then plus the year, and it can be anything from 2013 to 2019. Again, I'm sure most of you knew that existed, but it's just a good reminder that those are things that you should be practicing on your own because it's something that you would have been practicing in class, right? And if it's something you would have been practicing in class, then we need to virtualize that situation and be solid. So Tristan, going to your question of being prevented from getting overwhelmed. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. And I feel that too, because I'm still learning and doing a bunch of, I have like a million different hats right now. And so I totally get it. My best suggestion for you is to create a schedule for yourself. So AP Bio has 8 units. And this is also, so this goes to the last point of resources is your teachers, right? Continue to communicate with them because they want the best for you. And they're probably just as stressed out right now as you are that you're not in front of them in their classes, right? Like we would all much prefer to be back to normal and be in school right now, no doubt. So communicate with them and see if they have a plan. They probably do because they're AP teachers and they're teachers in general. But if they have a plan to continue with virtual learning, you obviously want to keep up with that. But then it might be important for you to do your review on your own. So what I do, I mean, I have like an awesome planner. I can show you here. That I've used now more than ever because it organizes my life, but it tells me what I need to do each week. And then I have blocks of time that I'm filling things out for. So here's what I'm doing during the day. Here's my to-do list. Here's what I'm doing during the evening. And then there's a bunch of checklists that you can use. Okay, so to keep track of things. So I use a really great planner. This is actually really inexpensive. It's called an Uncalendar. And I can put the link out if anyone wants it. But I think the most important thing you can do for yourself is just schedule your time out now, from now through the AP exam. Like if maybe you want to do, so in just thinking about it, we have almost 2 months left. So you could do like a unit a week if you wanted to, or something like that, which might be really beneficial. And if you, Tristan, I'll post the link right now. If you want, then you can do one thing a week, and then each day maybe you spend 30 minutes reviewing. We know that there are also really good review books out there, right? And review books can be really helpful in making information concise. You also have your textbooks, hopefully home. You should have some resources from your teachers, and then we'll send out resources. And then you have the course and exam description and the study guides from Fiveable to kind of use as a scaffold. So like again, Tristan, if this was me on Monday, let's say every Monday I'm going to start a new unit. So on Monday, I'm starting unit 1. I'm going to look at the study guide from Fiveable, and I'm going to look at the course and exam description, and I'm going to kind of map out my week. So maybe that's how I start every Monday with like, what do I know? What do I not know? And then I can use that to see what I'm going to work on the rest of the week. And maybe it's just like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday commitment. It doesn't have to be every day. But then you have a set plan and you have a routine. And for me, my anxiety decreases by 10,000 when I have a routine and a plan. So plan out your weeks. What units are you going to do? Maybe every Monday you go through the exam description and you decide what you know and what you don't know. Every Wednesday is review, and then every Friday is FRQ practice or something like that. So that's something that might be beneficial. I mean, that's what helps me when I'm anxious. So maybe it'll help you as well. Japesh, sorry if I just butchered your name. I apologize. Would you say focusing on FRQs or multiple choice is more important on reviewing for the actual AP exam? They're both important because each one is worth 50% of your grade. I would say that the FRQs are more accessible. There are less multiple choice questions that have been released. So it's kind of a mix. I think you're more comfortable doing a multiple choice than an FRQ. Students oftentimes struggle more with the FRQs just because of the strictness in the grading. But if your teacher has multiple choice that you can work on, I would just say do a little bit of both. And you also have to know yourself. Like I usually have a good gut instinct with multiple choice, but I really struggle with free responses. So I would spend more time on free responses. If you feel like you're a good writer and can, get to the point, then maybe spend some more time on the multiple choice. But they're both worth 50% of your score, so they're equally important. Okay. Cool. So that was a lot of information. So any other questions with how to study, how to best prepare, resources? I mean, if you guys have resources that are working for you, feel free to throw them into the chat because this is like time to come together as a community. There are a lot of review books out there. I think we have a blog post about it on Fiveable with the different review books like Princeton Review, Cliff Notes. You can usually find them for pretty cheap on Amazon. That's another good guide. But there's also like resource overload. So you want to pick a few resources that really work for you and stick to it, as opposed to, you know, searching for every resource, because then it just gets chaotic. Allison, that's a great question. In my class, I use the Cliff Notes 5th edition. So I think there's actually, let me look it up. Cliff Notes, AP Biology. I think there's a newer edition that's like no different. And so then it's really cheap to get this 5th edition. Yeah, it looks like it's like $11 or $10. And you can actually get used ones on Amazon for $2. So this is the one that I've always used. But I've also really heard good things about Princeton Review. I hear that they have good practice questions. So let me find that link for you, Princeton Review. So this one actually is even for the 2020 exam, so that might be helpful. And it has 5 full-length practice tests in it with complete answer explanations. So this might be a really good guide actually, because it has so many practice questions. Oh, and Derek says that he uses Princeton Review and loves it. So that's good right there. And this one actually, this book looks great. With a lot of really good strategies and online content as well. And I'm looking at it, it's only $16. So that's a pretty good deal. So that might be your best bet. And it looks like you can get it pretty quickly on Amazon. Thank you, Amazon, for changing our lives, right? So those are some extra resources for you. So stay organized. Have a good planner. If you don't want to buy a planner, you can make one with computer paper, right? Where you just map out your weeks, come up with the schedule that you're going to stick to, right? Come up with specific goals for yourself. That's how, as a teacher, I never, ever got behind because I was like, this is what we're covering this week. We need to get through it Monday through Friday. Okay. So that's something that you can use to keep yourself accountable. And then just take a deep breath and also take some time for yourself. But communicate with your teachers and see what plans they have. Because even though, I know in some areas, like in Illinois, technically, like e-learning is not required and it's not allowed to be a grade, but I'm sure that your teacher, especially if they've taught this course before, has a ton of resources that they were going to give you if you were going to be in class. So just email them, reach out and see what they have. The Pearson Test Prep Series for AP Biology 11th edition is also really good. Oh, cool. That's awesome. So you can reach out to your teacher because most teachers do use the Campbell textbook and see if you can get that test prep series for AP Bio. Yeah, if you have Campbell in Focus, you might not, although it still is a Pearson book, so I'm not positive. The Campbell in Focus is a good book too. We use the big Campbell, so that's a great resource. So keep them coming if you have them, but again, having a schedule is the best thing that you can do. And also finding a quiet space to work. Like I know I can't be out in my living room, so I set up a little makeshift desk in a guest room because that's like someplace I can go and get work done. Okay. All right, so we had a couple questions. Tristan had a longer one with DNA and RNA, so I might just send you the link, Tristan, to a video on that. That might be more helpful. So if you give me a second, I'll find that for you. I can pretty quickly go over probability rules, which is what Derek was asking. So let me see if I can find a good image. I like finding a good image. Also know that we're living through like truly a moment in history right now. So you guys should be really proud of yourself. Okay. Oh, all of these are kind of too confusing. Okay. The easiest way to explain it, because all of these are a little bit too confusing, so I can just explain it out loud. And Derek, if you want extra assistance, I can certainly provide it. The big thing with adding versus multiplying when you're doing probability is whether or not the two events need to occur or both can occur. So that's a hard example. Let me try to think of an actual example of this. So let's say we're looking at a population of 5 different phenotypes, and we want to know what the probability is that we pick a brown or a white individual out of that. So we can take the probability of finding brown and the probability of finding white, and we would add those together because we have an increased probability there, and we're adding fractions. Remember that probability is all in fractions or decimals. So when we're adding fractions, we're actually adding probability. And so there's a higher probability that we will find a brown mouse or a white mouse than finding just one. So maybe there's like a 1/5 probability of each. So there's a 1/5 probability that we would find a brown mouse. There's a 1/5 probability that we would find a white mouse, but there's a 2/5 probability that we would find a brown or white mouse. If, let's say we're drawing and we want to pick a brown and a white mouse, right? So we're doing 2 draws, and one we want a brown and we want a white. And is what makes it the multiplication rule. Okay, so then we would take 1/5 times 1/5, and we would only have a 1 in 25, or 1 out of, not 1 in 20, yeah, 1 out of 25 chance of getting a brown and a white mouse given those probabilities. So if you need both things to occur, so let's say for genetics, what are the probabilities that the offspring is male and has blue eyes, right? That would be multiplying, okay, because you need both things to occur, versus what is the probability that the offspring is male or has blue eyes would be when you would use addition. Hopefully that answers your question, Derek. Yes, so or and are the important ones. So or, I'm going to write this out. Or is addition and is multiplication. And I find it so hard. Oops. Oh, no, that's good. I thought I had a typo. I find it so hard to memorize things personally. So just think about it. If you want something or something else to occur, that would be a larger probability, and adding fractions gives you a larger probability. If you want something and something to happen, then you're going to use multiplication, because when you multiply fractions, it makes it smaller. Okay. Oh, there you go. Multiplication is longer and is longer. Love that. Great way to remember it. That's a perfect way to remember. And Sarthak, I'm seeing that you don't think you're going back to school, and that's valid. I feel like that might be what's going to happen. Are there going to be streams on the 2 last chapters? Absolutely. So evolution streams have already, so let me orient you guys in case you're new to Fiveable, because I know a lot of people are new. Let me show you. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we can go through some of these resources. Because we can definitely talk content, and especially next week, but this week I'd rather just orient you to all of your resources and make you feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that the content is out there, right? So there are resources if you're struggling with DNA and RNA or probability and things like that. Okay, so now you're seeing my screen. So when we log in here, I'm going to go up to this little 3 lines in the upper right-hand corner and drop down the menu. And I'm going to click on subjects and then AP bio. And you'll notice the number next to this, 255. That's 255 videos. Okay, so we are the most streamed subject. And again, that's why I said you're going to get sick of me, besides AP World. Okay, so AP bio, we have done a lot. So 255 resources is pretty amazing. And so then what you'll see here are all of these lovely units and all of the videos associated with them. So right now, if I wanted to know about DNA and RNA, I would go down to heredity, and there should be a replay. Oh, wait, maybe it's not in heredity. Maybe it's in cell structure and function. Now I'm not going to be able to find it now that we actually need it, right? Nope. Where are you at? Oh, gene expression and regulation. Oy vey. Okay, so we have a replay of this year. So this was Jessica, DNA replication, transcription, and translation. Okay, and so you can watch her video or just jump to what you need, which is pretty helpful. So over here on the right, you can just jump to, like, if you just want to know about transcription, you can jump to 33 minutes and she'll talk about it there. And she does a really nice job of explaining. And then her slides are done here too. So I can click on that and have access to her slides. So I'll post this in the chat for you guys. Right? And I think this is really helpful too, that you can hop to the things that you need. But then there also should be one that I did from the year previous. Yeah, I mean, there's all, yeah, DNA replication, gene to protein. So these are things that I did November 2018, which you can click on as well if you just want to know about gene to protein. And there's all sorts of stuff that you can check out. Okay, so that's like a 40-minute long video, but you can also just cut to the part that you need. So hopefully that helps. And then we also have all of my reviews from 2019. If you go down here to 2019 reviews, there's all sorts of reviews for each of the big ideas. And so you can take a look at all of those. And if you're just looking for an overview, okay, last minute cram sessions from last year. Okay, so all sorts of videos that you can go to if you need help. And then there are also study guides somewhere. I forget where. Where are they? Let me go back to the beginning. Units. Where are all of our study guides? I don't know. I'll have to send you guys, I can send you guys an email with the link to the study guides because I know there are a ton. But hopefully that just kind of orients you to more of the resources that you have. What other questions can I answer for you? I mean, this is, again, kind of informal. We have tons of structured, formal lessons that are like an hour long each on just one topic. Any other questions that you guys have? Derek, chi-square, that's a great question. I have a whole video on it, so you can certainly watch with examples that I write out. I don't know. It may not show up at all, or it may be a long free response question. I just don't know. It hasn't been a free response in a few years, so I think that it might be in the free response section, but I have no idea. I thought it was going to be in the free response section last year, and it wasn't. So I would definitely prepare as though it may be a free response. And we can certainly do more reviews closer to the exam. Same with Hardy-Weinberg. Now that you guys don't have the math section at the end of the exam, it will be less of a big deal. But Sarthik, I know Jessica just did a video on that, so you should check it out. And we can certainly do more focused. I'm planning on doing a math review closer to the exam where we can do Hardy and we can do chi-squared. So because both of those may show up. Hardy may be embedded in some of the multiple choice questions or even a free response. I don't know because it used to always be in the grid-in section. Which doesn't exist anymore. But there are videos on both of those, I'm sure of it, because I've streamed on them and I think Jessica has as well. So check those out. Should we know how to name molecules based on functional group? Definitely don't need to know that, Olivia. They don't go into that specific detail. You don't have to name things. That's like organic chemistry and you do not need to be familiar with it. So no stress there. What other questions do you have? Ooh, did you find the study guides? Resources. Well, this is helpful. Study guides. Yeah, great job. Free AP study guides. And then you can select a category. AP Bio. Oh, they only have 4 up right now. That's weird. Oh, these are the only ones they have? They only have Unit 1 up? Interesting. Oh yeah, and this is just a structure. Okay, maybe they actually haven't posted the study guides yet because this is just like a guideline, although it does have all those live stream replays in it, which is super helpful. I'll have to get back to you guys. Yes, because we have study guides for every section. So I'll make sure that that's top priority. I thought that they were already published, but I'll definitely talk to make sure that they all get uploaded for you guys because that's huge. And I know like the ones that I've made for ecology have a bunch of like practice math problems in there too. Okay, cool. I'll be on that. Let me write myself a note. Sierra, were you able to get into AP Classroom, by the way? What am I making about? Sierra may have left us. Unfortunate. Hopefully she got on. Eve, is there a difference between negative control and a control group? Ooh, that's such a good question. Wow. Okay, so let's think about that. So usually, yes, usually a negative control is going to be without whatever you are adding to it, right? So if you're adding a new, whatever it may be, medication, then that would be your positive group versus the negative control. The only difference would be like if for whatever reason they had multiple controls, like I've seen experiments where they might have plants and they have a positive control group that still gets water and a negative control group that doesn't even get water, which obviously it's not going to survive then, so it's not a great control group. But for the most part, you can assume that a negative control and a control group are the same because they are without whatever independent variable you're adding to the rest. Great question. Oh, Sierra, no problem. You don't have to try right now. You can always send me an email. I just wanted to make sure that if you had tried that I followed up with you. Truly no worries. Okay, Derek, are the videos on the website in the order we should watch? That's a great question. So I would go based on unit. Let me see. I would go based on unit and I would go based on topic in the course exam description. And I would actually just go based on date, right? So if you're looking at like my old videos from 2018 and 2019, I would go from earliest to latest. If you're looking at our videos from this year, they go in order from unit 1 to unit 8. So you would go to unit 1, but then click the oldest video first, because that's like the first part of unit 1, and then go through all of unit 1, and then from unit 2, go from oldest to newest videos, if that makes sense, because that's the order we plan them out for, and I plan them out in order to go along with the course exam description. So that's the easy way for you to do it, so you don't have to do all the legwork, is just go from oldest to newest in each unit. But I would go from unit 1 to unit 8 because that's how they were having us teach it this year. Any other questions I can get answered for you guys? So we have a stream tonight. It's going to be kind of wrapping up evolution. Next week, we'll start ecology. I'll probably be streaming. It's population ecology. So we'll do that. That has some math involved. So that will be at 8 p.m. Eastern. For sure. And so you can catch me live probably twice next Wednesday. If you want to come next Wednesday for the Q&A, I can answer some more broad questions or some more content questions, depending on if people have more broad questions. We can dive into content a little bit more. But know that there are all these resources here that are longer than the amount of time that I would be able to talk about it on this stream, because the whole stream was devoted to it. So definitely check those out as well. And just know that we're here for you guys. This is really a hard time, and it's easy to get down on yourself and get really, really stressed. And the best thing you can do is keep yourself organized, take it one day at a time, keep your routine, try to get outside when you can if it's safe to do so. Sierra, I'm glad AP Classroom worked for you. How important is vocabulary? I wouldn't make flashcards for key terms when I took the exam, like so long ago, 10 years ago, longer than that. Vocab was everything, and now it's really application based. So you need to be familiar with key terms, but I don't think you need to waste your time making a ton of flashcards because it's just too much. Hopefully that answers that. Yeah, if taking vocabs exams is way easier. It's way easier than what they're making you do, because when I took the exam, you needed to know everything about everything, but if you knew it, it was just like straight plug and chug, and this is way, way, way harder because they're making you do a ton of application. But does mean that you don't need to memorize a lot of vocab. Any other questions I can answer for you guys? With DNA replication, I would know the major enzymes like helicase, topoisomerase, DNA polymerase. I mean, the major ones. It's like 4 or 5 major ones that you should know. But usually they give them to you. Usually it's not. Oh, sorry, Derek. And then once I answer Derek's question, if anyone, so the lagging strand has staggering ends. Yes, so the lagging ends are staggered. They do have primers still. We have to have a primer in order for the DNA polymerase to bond. But it's just that they have multiple primers because they're moving in the opposite direction of the replication fork. Because they can only write from 5 to 3 and read from 3 to 5, they're going away as the replication fork is opening. Yeah, each Okazaki fragment has its own primer because it's impossible for DNA polymerase to bind to single-stranded DNA. So all of those primers get removed at the end and are sealed by a different DNA polymerase, but that's kind of too specific. It's DNA polymerase 1 versus DNA polymerase 3, and you don't need to know all of those details. But as it's moving, our DNA is opening in the opposite direction. And so it's moving this way, but as it's gotten down to my fingertips, like this whole portion has opened up. Okay, so then this will join here and it needs to fill in the gap, but there would need to be a primer put here at my elbow in order for this DNA polymerase to rejoin and move away. Okay, so each point needs a primer and then it's going to need that in order to bind. So the replication... So is the replication for no upstream? I'm not sure what that means. There is a DNA polymerase too. I actually forget what it does though. It's not a big player. I know what the diagram looks like, but how do you just... So everything is always, always, always moving from 5 to... We're reading from 3 to 5 and we're creating... So we're moving in opposite directions. So one DNA polymerase is moving towards the replication fork and one is moving away and then needs to go back and refill. But there's primers every single time for DNA polymerase to bind. Does that make sense? So they're working indirectly. They're working in opposite directions because DNA is anti-parallel. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not, so feel free to ask a clarifying question. Does that answer it? Okay, perfect. Good, I'm glad. Oh, Eve, what are the ins and outs of cellular respiration and photosynthesis? Holy schmoly, way more than I can talk about in the remaining 3 minutes, but good question. There are full videos. So I talk for an hour about cellular respiration and an hour about photosynthesis. I would totally watch those videos because I think they're really helpful. I mean, obviously I made them, but I think they're really helpful. But more importantly than that is that you don't have to memorize every single detail. You just need to understand why things are happening. Why are electrons being released? Why is energy being created? Why? Not the number of ATP that are being made, but why they're being made. Because usually the nitty-gritty details are actually given to you. So I can show you an example. Cellular Respiration FRQ AP Biology. In 2015, the second free response question, one of their long ones, was all about cellular respiration. And you can see that like the entire diagram, I'll share this with you quickly and then we'll hop off in a second. The entire cellular respiration diagram, what am I trying to do? Was given. This was all given, right? It tells you that pyruvate's made, that NADH is made, that ATP is made. All the questions are use the information to describe one contribution of each of the following in ATP synthesis. So how does the catabolism of glucose and glycolysis and pyruvate oxidation contribute to ATP synthesis, right? So you need to explain. So it shows you that that's happening. You need to explain why. So this is a really good, whenever students are confused about what they need to know about cellular respiration or photosynthesis, I show them this because these are the application questions that are associated with, again, they give you all the steps. You don't need to have these memorized, but you need to explain all of the nuances within them. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Okay, if you have any final questions, feel free to type them in the chat and I'll type back to you. Otherwise, next Wednesday, we can do more questions and answers. And again, take a look at some of these resources because there are lots and lots of them. All right, y'all. Stay safe. Stay with your families. Try to keep yourself sane. And I will see you guys next week.